Another conversation in English. Today I give you a sales recruiter. Yes, it's the partner of Headlights, Alexander Goovaerts. And we're going to talk about sales recruitment. What is an ideal sales? What are the characteristics you have to look out for a candidate? And what is advice you can give to the candidate himself or herself? Enjoy, Alexander.
Welcome to What's on Your Mind with Peter Snowart. Every week, a guest talks about his or her story, and that story can inspire you to change your own. Here's Peter.
Good morning, Alexander.
Hey, good morning, Peter.
I'm going to skip the part about how are you and things like that because we had that in our pre-conversation. We're going to immediately dive to the core. Now, you're one of the founders of Headlight, which is a Saas recruiting agency organization. Targeting, of course, attracting SaaS sales talent for SaaS organizations all around Europe. Correct, eh?
Yeah, that's correct. We specifically target growth companies which are in a phase of, in a very ambitious phase of either setting up a sales team or scaling massively. So that's our target group.
So does that mean that is that then the phase where there is already a VP of sales or CRO and he or she is looking to expand or looking for his first seller?
That could be both. So we like companies that want to set up they're looking for their first VP of sales. That's of course interesting, are more in a startup mode. But then of course when we need clients where we can expand the sales team, it could start from the VP of sales who is trying to find his first hire, let's say.
Yeah. Now, like I mentioned on the phone this week when we had a call, I have tremendous respect for what you and your colleagues are doing. Thanks. Because as you are aware, we have also a sales team. And because you took away one of our sales, but it's great. I mean, it's no. You don't have to apologize. I mean, it was the right timing, it's the right step, the right decision for him. So I'm very happy and grateful for him. So now the thing is the way because I have tremendous respect, is I expected, to be very honest, that it would be easier to attract new sales talent. Yeah. And the reality is that it is very, very difficult, very hard. And if I speak with other organizations, and they are facing similar challenges. Why is that? Is that because of the fact that there are so many companies and there is scarcity in terms of sales that they even hire not so great sales? Why is that? Is it because the fact that in Europe or even in Belgium, sales still has a very negative, and I'm talking about business to business sales here. Right? I'm not talking about the sales in an action or something. To make that
lots
clear.
Of reasons actually, and you already pointed one out. So it's, I guess the pool of candidates is within SaaS sales is not that big. SaaS sales is in general in Belgium not that big of a market yet, unless you would, because I saw it firsthand. My biggest clients 6 years ago were all consultancies. They were project consultancies like where you work, and SaaS sales was only 20% of my business. You had some companies that were growing in that time. Everyone knows Showpad at the time or Silverfin. But still, that market was it was a tight-knit market. So in that sense, it's still seen as an upcoming market. So it's not that you can get a senior with 20 plus years experience in selling SaaS per se, because 20 years ago, there was software, but there were services. There was not a SaaS model yet. So wait, it's still not a mature market yet. So that's in Belgium, of course. The market is not that mature yet. And the fact that that salespeople in a not so mature market or a market where there's not a lot of candidates, you get a lot of companies that are trying to attract them into a small pool. So there's a small pool with lots of companies that are trying to attract them. So what you get is actually sales professionals that are a little bit how you say, pampered, in that sense that they click open their mailbox and probably there's going to be 10 or 12 companies that are reaching out to them very proactively, also companies like me, like myself. So they don't feel the urge like to do it in a traditional way, as in, okay, I'm looking for a job, I'm going to see what's out there. They're more looking for what's coming to them. So I think that's the reason. But the one that you mentioned is a bit the case. It's still, sales is still not seen as a primary choice of career in Belgium. So it still has that negative bias, I would say. So it's still the case. I've seen in some countries, in the Netherlands, in the UK, it's much more common, I would say, to be a sales guy. There's still that feeling that a sales guy is that sales is something that you get into, you fall into it, let's say. It's not something that you specifically choose to get into, and that's different, I think, in other countries. But it's changing. It's going to change massively, I guess. And technology, or the tech sector, is going to be the accelerator for that. So it's also something that we really, really want to be ambassadors for. So we're not only ambassadors for our clients, we're just ambassadors for choosing sales as a genuine career choice.
Mm. The one of the reasons I think that that it still has a negative perception, besides the media and the Wolf of Wall Street stuff, is I have now I don't know how do you say that, hired. I mean, there are two interns starting in February, and they follow a master in economics or something like that, with a specialization in commercial management. It's something in that area. So like normal candidates, I want to see them because I want to know who they are, etc., etc. What's the drive, what's their impact? Because its internship is not just a playground. I really want to that they learn something, and I want to fill the grit. And the strange thing is that with these two people, and it was also with interns of last year. I mean, they don't know the difference even when they study that, they don't know the difference between sales and marketing. They all think it's product management or product marketing. It's very strange. And when they have a class about sales, they learn the pushy, just ask two questions and then pitch your stuff. And and that's very
the modern way of selling. It's
no, and that's
outdated stuff.
And so these people think, this is sales, and this is not for me, because it feels really second car sales, or not like you, but some recruiters also have that mentality. And therefore they say, it's not for me. And then they come to us.
That's the idea, though. So they have a wrong idea actually about what sales actually is and what it can bring to them. So what I'm really also trying to educate young potentials is that what sales can really do for your career. What are you actually learning? They're only seeing the transactional part, as in they're only seeing that repetition, as in, I don't want to be calling all day. They see themselves, I don't want to work in a call center. Okay, but what if you look at it from a different angle? What if you say that, what can you learn in 3 years of calling executives and doing business analysis on the phone, doing discovery calls on what their pains are, what they are thinking about every day, and just having that type of conversations day in, day out. Those are key learnings that you're going to take with you for your entire career. Even if you decide to stop or quit in sales after 2 years or 3 years, the type of information that you get, the way that you learn to communicate with people from other levels and with more maturity in business, and the stuff you learn is just tremendously, but they never see it that way, or it's hard to see it for a young potential to see it that way. They see it as something, but okay, I did a master, so why do I have to go in sales because I did a master? sales is not something that someone with a master degree would do, right? So it's weird that they feel about it that way, but it's still the case. So they're not really educated, I think, on the different topics yet. And it could be a great idea that people, the guys from you sites, you guys with these type of podcast, you're ambassadors for just the job as is, just or
Yeah.
the career in sales. So, and we have to really try to emphasize that it's really because sales is also changing to a more, it's to more of a science, let's say, because it's getting harder to sell. It just makes it more interesting. For me, that's my personal opinion, but it just makes it more interesting, and people should start knowing this. But it's good that some of the high schools are really getting to teaching them, because I'm seeing some courses that people take that are really pointed towards sales and marketing. I can remember 20 years ago that didn't exist at all.
Mm.
So
Yeah, me neither. Me neither.
everyone was going into either a big four or going to banks, but now they're going into tech sales. So that's a pretty cool evolution to see.
Yeah.
But it still has, it still needs to come. So the volume of people is still coming in, and then it's going to be a different story, hopefully.
The sales is becoming more and more a science. Is that so?
A science in that way that you already know that you're a buyer. Also, it's not sales. It's not about in that sense. Building relations is getting less important in the field of work, because your buyer already knows tons of stuff about you. So you really need to you need to know more about your buyer. You don't have the time anymore to really get to know your buyer. It's like you can have 2 or 3 dinners with him, and then okay, now I really know what's going on. No, you have to really dive into the data and the information that's already out there, and collect that and start talking to your client with a lot of background information, which is now there for everyone to know. But that wasn't the case back in the day, of course.
But you mean
so
that
means it's changing.
If I understand correctly, you mean that a relationship is still important, but it needs to be founded based on knowledge and providing value. I mean, and not by drinking beers and just being a nice guy.
No, so that's the case, and it used to be the case because I want to buy from you because because I like you, and still in some types of industries that is the case. So the wine and dine sales guy who just has the black book, the address book, and just goes from company to company because I can get which company I get into. I can use my address book and just get into these companies. I don't think that really works anymore, or that's going to be a dying breed. Also, something that's related to it is, of course, the digitalization of the sales process. You used to drive to Brussels or to Ghent, and it took you an hour to drive there. People would welcome you, you get a coffee, and you took your time to get to know each other. Maybe also more on a personal level because, okay, this person really took the time to get here. So it gets a little bit more personal. Now you have 30 minutes to do it, and we're going to do it on a video call. Are you really going to remember me as a person? I don't think so. So not in that 30-minute call. It's going to be about, okay, how can you provide value for me? And let's start from there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's also the reason why I think the game is changing a lot.
Now, how can you? I mean, is there one type of sales? Does that exist?
No, not even closely. There's so many differences, and you can't just say, okay, this is a good sales or a bad sales. It doesn't matter. What people would see as a bad salesperson could easily be a good salesperson for another type of company. It all has to do so many different in differences in sales dynamics in the context where you work, the colleagues you work with. Could be a great fit for someone, but a bad fit for someone else. Also, really depending on like they used to say like a good sales, you can sell anything. It's just a way of if saying that this person is really convincing. That's it. That really doesn't mean that the person can really sell anything, because that wouldn't be the case actually if you were to try it.
No,
So
I fully agree. I cannot sell everything. The only thing that I can sell it if I really believe in it and I'm passionate about it. I mean, I'm interested about it, but all the rest I don't care. Now,
no,
I then have three questions, of course. First of all is, how can a seller be self-aware what environment, culture, company is fitting and that he or she can be a high performer? The same applies for how can a sales exec, the VP sales or the CRO, spot that talent. And of course, very important from in your shoes, how can you as a recruiter, how do you do that then? Let's start with that. Let's start with
yeah,
you. How can you spot? Because again, I've done it myself now a lot, and it's based on, of course, asking questions.
yeah,
But not a typical questions, sometimes difficult questions, role playing, a use case,
yeah,
also applying the sales team and
yeah,
some other members of the organization who are not in sales. And based on that input, I'm going to, and also my intuition,
yeah.
that's a very important one. And the combination of that is I'm going to make a decision, yes or not. No.
Yeah. So actually the first thing that you need to do if you are a VP sales and you were to hire is to exactly know your organization, your sales dynamic, what's the best way to sell in your organization, in your team, in your company. What are some of the characteristics that you need to talk to the buyers that you sell to, your colleagues, or just the dynamics of the sales process, the length of it, the amount of people or actors that you need to convince. So you need to get that straight first, and that you analyze it, and then on that base, you still need someone to. You want to be focusing on someone that is closely related to those sales dynamics, because that is the best way to predict if that person can also sell in that context. So you have to look at the type of process that they're used to. Do they have to talk to procurement? Do they have to talk to a CFO? Do they have to talk to a CEO? If that someone has to talk to CEOs, does that person have a background in just the generic economic background? Can they relate to what a CEO is, for what he's laying awake at night, for instance? So it's not talking about your product, it's talking about business in general. So you need to get down to that, getting that context and those specifics first before you start your search. And then the best way, of course, is just to look at a background which is pretty similar, which is also still the best predictor of success. But that's easy. What I also suggest to do is try to look for people where you actually know that getting them into your company would be a slight step up, not per se a huge step up, but a little way up for them, which can mean, okay, you're going to sell to buyers that maybe are a little bit more complex, but you're still used to something that is related, but it's going to be maybe a little bit more complex, but it will challenge you. That could be a challenge for that specific salesperson. Or for instance, they're looking for a different kind of role. They're used to a specific kind of role, but here you can have a little bit more. So these people are usually motivated more because you need the ones who see it as, okay, my learning curve is going to go up again there when I move to this company. So you need to start looking for specific kind of patterns actually in these with these people in this background, let's say. one of the questions you asked was
How do you spot great talent, and if it matches or because you have to do the two, eh? You have to
yeah.
know the characteristic of that person, the drivers, and also the characteristics of that company based on the input of maybe one or two persons. But sometimes it doesn't reflect the reality, or they don't know, I
Yeah,
assume.
that's true. I think a good salesperson, in my opinion, is someone who is aware of what context fits them best. So if they're selling to SMEs and they're selling small ticket sizes, and they want to grow to, they tell me, okay, Alexander, I want to go into enterprise selling. Okay, then I'm going to challenge them on certain topics that I know that are going to be different in selling to SMEs. And I need those people to know that what's the difference in selling, because they're only thinking about it's going to give me more. I don't know. They're gonna they think it's their way up. But usually they don't think about, okay, but it's all of the process moves slower. There's a lot more people going to be involved. You need to know your contracts. You need to know more about the client's business. It's not just having cool companies on your portfolio. So it's not just about that. So I need those people to really, first of all, know that what's going to happen when they change and what that change includes. Um, and it's still very unclear. It's a big gray zone also. So you're telling me, how can you spot that? I can't spot that on a resume. It only gives me a certain prediction that this might be the case or this person might be a good fit. But the hard part about sales recruitment that makes it hard is that you have to talk to people day in, day out, because you will never know. You can never assume something on paper. You see people with a great resume and you have the idea that, okay, on paper it looks great. When you talk to them, you get zero energy, or you don't have the right mindset. You don't feel that this person has the right commercial reflexes. So it's really that's the hard thing about sales recruitment, is that combination of, first you have to get that great resume, that great track record that gives you a prediction, and only then it starts, and then you have to talk to tens, 20, hundreds of thousands of people to really get that one that you say, okay, this one has both. He has the right mindset. There's growth potential in this person. So I think that is where lots of people run into when they try to do it on their own. It's like, okay, I'm going to recruit some salespeople. I'm just going to write some, because I know he has a great track, so I'm going to write him a message. And if I write to 20 people and there's someone coming out there, it just doesn't work that way. There's so many things that are at play there. So
And what are typical, I wouldn't call it red flags, but attention points? For instance, for me, when I see a resume, because I fully agree, if I see a person who had like 6 jobs and it all has been 1 year and 1 month, or even less than 1 year, for me that's typically an indication, or that person is inside a search of his self. He doesn't know, she doesn't know what his talents are and skills are, and the right environment, and or that they have worked for that company and that company said goodbye.
Yeah, true. But it can be both. So it's still, you can't really make assumptions, what I used to do. But it could easily be the case that this person is really finding out which type of context that suit him best. So there's really people that really are trying to find out and immediately realize, okay, this is the kind of sales dynamics I'm not looking for. I'm looking for something else. And they realize, okay, I need to get out of this type of context because it doesn't suit me. So if they're in that search, that could still be a good thing. But you still have to realize that I think in SaaS selling, you need at least 2 years to see if you can really build a success. So for me, it could be an indicator that people are not reaching their success, and then they just leave or quit before the boat is sinking, let's say. So I would rather see 2 years, 2 years, 2 years. For me, that's okay. I would never be judgmental about leaving in 2 years, but it's still the average. The average sales only lasts a year and 7 months. So that's a statistic you have to take into a year and 7 months. But what that usually also means is that just salespeople are in general, they have a very repetitive job. If they sell one product, it also just means that after 2 years selling the same product, doing the same thing all over again, if there's nothing in that organization with a bigger vision that is keeping them motivated, that's also a reason people start changing positions. Because you're only motivated on short term to sell a cool product, get your commission. There has to be some higher level of motivation. That's usually a good CEO who has a vision for a company, like a more grand vision that you can also sell to clients, that you have to, that's inside your head and that's keeping you going for people that are selling the same product for 5 to 6 years. There's also something to say about that. Either they're too comfortable in that position and they're seeing it as a job and they're just sticking out 9 to 5, and it's like, okay, this is okay for me, I can sell this without any hesitation, my commission comes in. It's either that, or it's really some kind of great company that is building a great culture and having this grand vision that makes people want to stay.
Yeah, but it's also the responsibility of the sales exec to see where that salesperson is, where that he or she wants to go, and to make sure that that person gets enough challenges in order to experiment and grow. For instance, I have one person in a team who was working there for 6 years. So started as a cold caller, and then I gave him working on very big accounts, which he was very afraid of doing. He's doing great, and now I'm giving an assignment to coach also the very young people in order so he can grow. Because it's correct what you're saying. Even myself, after 1 year, when I found out the trickery, how that it works, and that I can repeat that trick in order to be successful, I get annoyed because I like the building part. So if I don't have anything new, I quit.
Yeah.
So for me, it's typically around 2 years to 4 years. And after that, but sometimes there are situations, like having a baby, you know, that situation, and having great colleagues, and also the world, which is changing rapidly in some industries. I mean, you start with some product or service, and 4 years later, it's completely shifted to something completely else.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing that's why you would like to work with growth companies, because they're just salespeople that are working in growth companies. They're working on personal growth themselves, because they have to adapt to these ambitions of that company. They can't be the same person that went into the company. And if the company has grown tremendously in 4 to 5 years, they really have to grow with it themselves, so they have to challenge themselves. That's why I really like working for growth companies, and I would emphasize I would like to challenge every sales professional to once in their career or twice in their career to really work at a growth company. It's really different to work at a company that's really pushing things forward, and because you're actually the driving force behind it. Sales is really the engine. But say, for instance, you have a career at big companies like SD Works, for instance, they're at the top of their game and everyone knows them. And it's really about defending that number one or number two position more than really to grow. But it's totally different to be a sales guy or a sales girl in that kind of environment. I'm not saying there's good or bad, but still, I think once in your career, it could be a great way for professional personal growth to be in that kind of context.
That's why that's a very interesting topic you're mentioning. That's why I'm very cautious about the fact when people are mentioning like targets and results in their CVs. it doesn't say a lot to me because I worked from in startups from the ground up, so no customers to like an IBM, and I call that surfing the wave.
Yeah,
Sometimes
sure.
you're working at the right industry, the right product, the right company, the right price in a buyer's market where they're going to buy your product. And
Yeah,
like in 2000, the phones were ringing. I need a PC, I need a server, but that
yeah,
completely changed to a seller's market. And I'm looking for that grit, that how do you call that? That mental elasticity. Maybe that's the wrong word, but where you have the capacity mentally to cope with rejection and to
yeah,
with failure. Because
yeah,
I've worked in some situations where we did not that I had to fail 6 times, so I had to lose 6 times to
yeah,
get
yeah,
it right the seventh time and to find this is the positioning, this is the way, this is
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the right person to talk to, and I like that process. The only
Yeah,
thing
for
is that it takes time and it takes a lot of mental capacity because it's frustrating, of course.
yeah. It's tremendously, it's something I challenge all the candidates I work with in. Have they been in those types of situations where you go below zero and you need to reinvent yourself or something, or the company where you work has to reinvent themselves, because that really builds a lot of resilience also, and that just tells you something about that person if they can stay in that sort of environment. Um, 4 years working as an account executive at SAP, and I'm saying, okay, I hit my targets plus 100% every year. Then you have a candidate who has been working 4 years in a startup that started from zero, from scratch. No one knows the product. No one needs the product yet. There's zero clients, and he hits 100% every year at 4 years. Those are two very different persons that are very different kind of trajectory. That other person will be much more mature, and you can't just so it tells you actually nothing. That's the hard part about sales recruitment. What are you gonna, if you're a hiring manager, you just tell me, okay, I need someone with 4 years of experience at least selling this type of software. Okay,
Mm.
that's cool. Both of them has the same experience, but they're two different people probably.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh,
Yeah, I
that's also
experienced
the
that.
cool thing about it. You just, yeah, it's just every time you talk to someone, you could be making assumptions, but then you meet someone very rare, and then yeah, that gives you a tremendous amount of energy.
Yeah, because I have the feeling that I see that also with us that I'm going to generalize that lots of people are looking for, I don't know if it's a correct term in English, but the white raves, that white rabbit with
Yeah,
big ears and a fluffy tail,
yeah,
and they're waiting for that person. And I come to the
don't wait.
conclusion that you have to look and spot if a certain potential is in that candidate sitting in front of you, and are you able yourself and the environment to get that potential out of the candidate. Otherwise, maybe you can wait very long or pay lots of money.
Yeah, that's true. Don't fir- uh, First thing, don't wait, because you can be waiting for centuries. So when it doesn't add up to what you're losing. So that's there's a giant opportunity cost. That's the correct term. Um, when you have to wait for that person, and you have to ask yourself, why do I need that white raven? That actually means that something is wrong in your organization, that you're missing out, probably, that you have to that you're so in need of that person. That means that person needs to know lots of stuff at the same time, and that's probably telling you something about that, something that's missing in your organization. Try to just um, I'm going to give you the example. When I started, everyone was looking for technical sales, because I used to work with a lot of more really IT related companies, and they always said I need someone who is both technical and both sales. And I just ask them the first thing, okay, why do you need someone technical? You're an IT company. I don't understand it. You need a salesperson, right? What's the end result that you want? You want revenue? Okay, then you need a salesperson. You have technical people? Yeah. Okay. So why are you so unsure that you don't have the right technical knowledge, that you need a sales that knows both. So that means just there's something wrong in your process or how you're organized, I guess.
But
So
isn't that because the fact that and that's an assumption, eh? Because it sounds very familiar. Is that the management, the founders, the CEO, whatever, is also a techie or used to be a techie, and they
yeah,
take the assumption that in order to sell their technical stuff, they need a technical person talking to technical people to sell that. The
yeah,
only thing that they're missing out is that the fact that a salesperson is going to translate that techie stuff as a
yeah,
means to reach a goal in value for that person who's sitting in front of him or her.
yeah, sure.
And
There,
and it's not about, and I experienced myself, it's not having the best technical product with the best technical features and whistles and bells that your prospect is going to say, oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
No, it
that's
doesn't matter.
no, really, because yeah, that's true what you say. That's usually the case for people that are asking that are usually also technical. Because they think that what is selling are the features, are the product itself, mostly. Could be the case, of course, but it's yeah. The salesperson knows that this probably is not the case. So what
Yeah,
you're selling is you're selling the value proposition. What you're solving, you're not selling the features. That's not what a CEO really. If you're selling to a CEO, that's not really what he's looking for. He's not really interested in those technical features. He just wants to know that can this solve my problem, and are you going to get me more time, more money. So
mm.
yeah.
Do you yeah, you've been doing this for 6 years, and I see a lot, and I feel lots of passion
Mhm.
from you and your team. You just mentioned like 10 minutes ago that one of the lessons you learned is that you used to take, and me myself by the way also, lots of assumptions when meeting somebody based on resume and things like that. Is that for you the biggest lesson that you learned in the last 6 years? If you would redo it again and meet the Alexander of 6 years ago, what kind of advice, lessons would you give yourself if you could
The thing
redo it
is,
again?
I actually need those assumptions because look, I can trust some of my assumptions because I've been doing it for such a long time. But the first thing I tell people that are coming in, I see, please look at it through a positive uh, glasses to everyone. Don't make assumptions because not everything is what it seems. It's not because what you hear and what you see. Always ask why, always ask the reason, always challenge or qualify on the phone or in person or on screening, and you need to know really what's behind it. So why are people saying things? And that's one of my key learnings, just in recruitment in general, is that people are saying things for a reason. You need to know the reason behind it, and that's what's going to make you a lot better in this situation. And I just ask why, and that's a question I didn't ask when I was a young recruiter. I never ask it. Now I keep telling why, and I ask 5 whys to my client, 5 whys to my candidate, and suddenly they're telling the real story. They're telling what they really think. They're telling what they really know, and that's one of the that's a key learning, I would say, just as in this business, that you need to know why are people saying something, what's the real reason, what are the drivers behind it. Then you get then you really get to it. You That's something you can never get out of a resume. You need to know
Mm.
why people made certain decisions in their life to give you a predictor of what's going to happen or how successful or how much of a fit this person can be.
Mm. You're working on a European level. I assume there are cultural differences
It's
between salespeople and also the way companies are recruiting,
yeah,
handling sales.
definitely, yeah, definitely. Again, we touched this topic in the beginning. It's still in Belgium. It still has that that negative bias, and in other countries, I don't see this negative bias per se. Um, and the way I see people in the UK are much more like service oriented. They're much more I would say they have these sales reflexes, I would say. So you can see it in working with hiring managers as well. They have like these commercial reflexes, even if they're not sales profiles themselves. And I still see those kind of reflexes that I don't see. I did see less working in Belgium and Netherlands, of course. Yeah, I think you have, and we have a general idea also about how Dutch people work. This was a quote from one of my when we started first targeting the Netherlands and we had first Dutch clients. They say, "Oh, you don't have to look for salespeople in the Netherlands because in the Netherlands everyone can do sales. It's different than Belgians," he said, and it's kind of true. It's of course it's an over dramatic over dramatization, of course, but it just meant that people in general in Holland or in the Netherlands they have more commercial reflexes, and then France is a totally different totally different vibe, I would say, but it's just in general the way they're much more direct, but there's still a bunch of rules, I would say, in France. They're more on the old school side of things, but it's even in the south of Belgium as well, to sell different kind of sellers still. But yeah, definitely, it's fun actually to work with, because it did now a couple of international placements last month with people from yeah, selling to EMEA or selling to Spain or selling to the US. I think international people that live here in Belgium, they have a different vibe. I think they have these, yeah, bigger ambitions, and maybe they're more set on getting that career because they're not really living in their home territory or something. They need to prove themselves. We hired someone from Colombia who's living in Antwerp right now, working here, and now we have another colleague from Greece. She's half British, half Greek, and yeah, I would say a lot of positive things, I would say, in hiring an international crowd as well. So more and more, we're also trying to emphasize, or getting into our ICP is actually a SaaS company that sells internationally and that looks beyond borders in hiring also. So I think we have to stop complaining about a war for talent if we have all these opportunities in working remote and getting also people that can speak English. It's not mandatory to really ask yourself, why does this person per se have to speak Dutch or French? Is it really to just, yeah, have lunch with him and then to see that we don't have to speak English during lunch? Or
No.
is it, we really have to try to, yeah, start asking ourselves, and we have this great person, is it because there's a different nationality that we're not going to hire them? That's, yeah.
No. I think the biggest difference, I think, there, because I had a VP of sales who was born in Colombia, who lived in Amsterdam and Rotterdam for a while, then in Kuala Lumpur, and then moved to Mexico for another startup. And she's a woman, by the way. Yeah. And the biggest difference there, and that's also something that I had in the beginning of my career, is that we Flemish people are limiting ourselves in the way we think about the world, and the way the biggest thing that I had to overcome was there was second company in 2000, which was a startup. The term in Belgium did not exist yet then, but it was a tech startup. And I had a big discussion with the CEO founder, and he was like, Peter, we're going to conquer the world and blah, blah, blah. And he was going to sell his company to Veritas. At that time, there was a major software vendor. And he came back. No, it was to NetApp, which was a storage vendor. And he came back and he smiled at me and said, it didn't happen. And I asked him why. They thought it's Belgian technology and it's Lero to Houseby. And I said to him, look, I'm right. And he said, no, you're not right. That was just the first attempt. Then 6 months later, so what he did, he opened an office in the US. He put an old gray guy in it, called him CEO. And then he did the whole thing again with Veritas. And two months later, the company was sold and that was the biggest lesson that I learned, is think big. And
Yeah,
that's bringing in that international people is
yeah,
then you will get that mentality, besides
yeah.
having
Those are the
that
ones
under
that
the
really
church
open up.
mentality.
Those are the ones
Yeah.
that open up your eyes. It was so weird because I had the first hire that I did was international, and I met her, and it was like, okay, I thought it was going to be like a big step or something, but actually the step is not that big. And I think as soon as people were coming in here with an international mindset, my mind opened more as well. I always wanted an international company, so it's as a big ambition of mine, but still I have these limiting beliefs that are just, I don't know, they're embedded into our brain. I'm talking about myself. I think it's a limiting belief. It's even at our football team, the Red Devils. They have limiting beliefs that they're not on the world stage yet. That's why I think that's a reason that they're not going to win the World Cup, for instance.
No. Yeah.
If you don't think that you are at that stage, then, or you shouldn't be at that stage, then you're not going to be on that stage.
No. And
So
now you're talking about what I personally believe, that what you're now talking about, the limiting beliefs, is that that's really in the space of personal growth, which is an area I find complete bullshit like 15 years or 20 years ago.
yeah,
Whereas the last 10 years, I mean, the podcast is also all about that.
sure.
And I mean, one of the things that I also had was like, I did one of the first projects with Amazon Web Services in Belgium.
Yeah.
People are like, no, we're never going to put our stuff on there. And the thing that struck me there was that the AWS is based, now they are in Brussels, but they didn't have an office in Belgium, and they had an office in Luxembourg.
Yeah.
And they were hiring French people and German people, or Luxembourg people who worked and lived there, and they had to target the Belgian market. And I'm like, how in the hell are you going to do that?
Yeah.
And they did, and it was so much fun working with them. And because I had these limiting beliefs about who is a French person, because I had really negative experiences with people from Paris and corporate world. It's a very different island. But it does not mean that everybody's like that, and everybody in France is an asshole.
True.
They are
definitely.
very kind people, and I still have a connection with them.
Yeah.
So and it was, we're going to target this and this company, but you don't speak Dutch, it doesn't matter. And then I was like, myself seeing in the mirror, like, shit, I have this limiting belief.
Yeah, true.
Am I holding myself back? And so for me, also in coaching salespeople, it's about that. It starts with money. I mean, when they say that's a lot of money, is that so? Because I see a lot of sellers that they are selling stuff like, I don't know, it's I don't know, deals of 5K, and suddenly they have to sell deals of 1 million euros, and they're not able to do that, and it is a result of their limiting belief that they think it's
something that's worth 1 million. And they would say it as an excuse, or why you're not selling or not good. They say, we have an expensive product. I said, okay, no, but that's not a reason why you're not successful, because I don't believe that. That's because you don't think, it's because you don't think that it has that value, and that's why you're not selling. It's because you're not believing that it's a good price. So so there are two different things.
Now
it's something that really that would help tremendously for sales professionals as well to and that's why we'll always advise sales professionals in general that they are the ones that are into developing or trying to work on personal growth, because it will let you know overcome rejections, not taking things personally. It will just in general help you to communicate better with any type of buyer, any type of people, to understand every situation. It's just it gets you into a more mature level in general, and it will help you tremendously to become more successful. So it's not just for entrepreneurs, it's for everyone. But
And that's for me the very important thing, the characteristics that I'm looking for: coachability and adaptability. It's great to create to receive feedback and don't go into in defense mode, but also are you going to execute and act upon that?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's for instance, the example here at Headlight is that we're going through different phases. We're always the ones who are going to feel the economics or the vibes or in the economic waves. We're feeling that first. Why? Because difference in economic waves are always have to do with recruiting or hiring people, hiring freezes, hiring a lot of people. We're consultants, so consultancy first kind of service that you say, okay, we're not going to spend money. What's the first thing you say? Too expensive consultants, let's skip it and do it ourselves. So we're the first one that are sensing this. And I noticed already some people that started here at Headlight during Corona, when 75% of my business just went belly up. They suddenly had to adapt to a totally different situation. And then it was, pure play, let's say. The last 2 years, there was money throwing around everywhere. So it was great. But now you feel also a different kind of situation that is coming up. Should we call it a recession? It will. But that doesn't really mean that, just means that you have to adapt as a company and you have to adapt yourself as a sales professional. Okay, what do clients need today? Or what do we need to do to make sure they're still comfortable in buying from us? Do we need to lower our prices? Why? It's not because it's a recession that we need to lower our price. You need to emphasize on something else. That's adaptability, and it's really what we have to. That's something that you really need in your sales team always.
No, that's true. And this is also the thing that sometimes, I don't know if that happens to you. I assume yes. Is that some candidates are like, am I going to get lots of training? And I'm like, you will receive training, but very importantly is that that you will take ownership and leadership of your own development. I mean, I'm an avid reader. This is one of the reasons I started the podcast, because lots of authors give me books because I like to read and then I hand them out. And for instance, some great books I give to the sales team.
Yeah.
But it's not me that are going to push you to read that book or to post that post on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
To create your own network. I'm giving it to you. I'm coaching you. But it's like fitness. You will have to do the benches and the trenches. You have worked out this week.
Yeah.
And so you have to take care of your own development also yourself. So this means buying books, podcasts, YouTube videos. And so don't put the power of learning outside of yourself and waiting for because in all the companies that I've worked for, is it like an IBM or mid-tier companies like Trend Micro or Veritas Semantic or startups? I mean, yes, there is education and there is training and things like that. But to be very fair, it was really when I decided for myself that I'm curious and that I wanted to learn and rethink the whole way of what I thought what was selling, that it really started to drip in and do something with it. All the rest was really, I heard that and then it goes away and it doesn't stick, or what sticks is like a couple of percent.
Yeah. That's it's good that you mentioned that, because it's really we get that question a lot. Is there training? But if we see that this person really needs training because they're so actually that insecure and they're trying to put everything on that, if I get trained well, then I will become well. That's not the mindset you're looking for. It's good that you say, okay, I want to come into a place where there's great coaching and there's great mentorship, but it's not gonna that you're getting a course for 6 months and then after you get now you're gonna be a good seller. So it just doesn't work that way. You were also on you did the We Are Sales conference. You were there, and the people from Gong, they mentioned some statistics about training. You remember that it just doesn't last if you give just an old school training with the screen and you tell them just some of the dynamics about sales. How long does it last? it's really more about coaching on the job. It's mentoring that you can do. I would do this in this situation, a combination of both that will get you into a certain place, but then it will only get you from 0 to 1. But then
Yeah.
that 1 to 10, it's actually entirely up to the sales professional to make that happen. It's really on a day to day. And I always tell people, it's to get to quality, you need quantity first, because you will not realize what quantity is unless you put in the quantity. So in the beginning, it's just getting through all of the quantity and trusting the process that you will actually get to a quality level. Every conversation is a way to learn. You get from every tiny conversation and you multiply it by 10,000. Then certainly, without even realizing, I think every salesperson has this within his career. You suddenly see yourself, and it's like, wow, I'm actually doing this, and it feels supernatural, and I'm just hitting those numbers, and it feels natural, but it's just due to all of the stuff that you've been doing in the past, and suddenly you're there. So it's not something that happens just overnight.
Yeah, that's it. It doesn't happen overnight.
No.
And I tend to believe that a lot of young sellers are looking for the silver bullet, the overnight success, also due to these sales automation things. But one comment I want to add to the things you just mentioned is that I say to sellers, and some even CEOs, they look at me and they're like, "What the hell are you saying?" I say a quote of Jim Rohn, and I really believe that.
Yeah.
Work harder on yourself than on your job, because if you're just doing your job, you will stay stupid. I mean, if you work harder on yourself, you will get better at things, and then your job will get better. So if that means you have 1 hour in a week that you're taking the time to read and to listen to podcasts and YouTube videos during working hours, it's totally fine for me. Do it, but be educated and take that responsibility, or just stay the same.
Yeah, sure. Because that means you will not be adapting, as what we mentioned before. You will not be able to adapt to other situations, and you will become, I don't know, indispensable. I would say it's a harsh word, but that's the one thing that I would like, for instance, for what I would wish on my kids, or I would say to them on how to become successful, is to be adaptable. That's and it's a primary thing and being adaptable means getting knowledge and talking to people, exploring things, and
But the last thing you mentioned was that you're doing lots of things. It's not overnight. I fully agree. And then it becomes supernatural. That's true. And then you are there.
Yeah.
I think that's also the trap. If you think you are there, I see lots of salespeople doing the same circus trick 10 years after itself, but the market is changing, the product is changing, and they're doing the same trick. And I'm like, I mean, come on. So I tend to think more like I know stuff, and at the same time, I know that I don't know it. I'm open. I'm like, right now, for instance, is that every seller for me, they have to do public speaking, speaking on video. And so I give them assignments. So, and I push them really far, and they're like, Peter, but that's not part of sales job. Believe me, it is. So in order to grow,
it's going to become this, or like everyone has to, you're making them ready for the next generation of sales, for instance, let's say, because you know that's going to be important. Knowing stuff about marketing, it's a salesperson right now. If you don't know anything about marketing, then you are not a modern seller. That's just if you not be able to tell stories, if you're not be able to write a little bit of good copy, then you're not really adapting yourself to the modern ways of selling. So that's just really something that we as hiring manager need to make sure that you're hiring people that are really aware of those types of things as well. Sales has so many levels. It's not just becoming good sales professional that will make you better. It's knowing more about business, it's knowing more about marketing, it's knowing more about the world. Yeah, definitely.
Now, last question,
Yeah.
and it's maybe the most difficult one of all. I mean, sales has a bad reputation,
Yeah.
but to be quite open and honest, Alexander, I mean, the type of mails that I receive from recruiters, not from you because you do it in a good way, and also Steph, because I've known you for years now, especially Steph, I can recall, is that, I mean, also recruiters, the sales recruiters, or recruiters in general, have also a little bit of bad rap about those mails. This is the package, this is for you. How how do you look to that? I mean, is it going to be some kind of wipeout of the bad cowboys, and only the good ones are going to left behind? How do you? What's your take on that? Because I also assume that you also have to deal with that negative assumption of
Yeah,
perception.
sure. It's always actually, I always, it takes a while to get through it. So and there's still always going to be people that you meet that have that level, but it's something that you can get through pretty easily as well. So it doesn't take a lot of effort to. So that's a good thing. It doesn't take a lot of effort to be better than what other people are doing. But I think the main, I have a very specific opinion on it, and what I've learned is that, and some people will not like this opinion, by the way, it has to do to the fact that clients recruitment is something is that is very necessary. It's something that's always been there. Is business crucial. If a position doesn't get filled, then they have a problem. So they can't trust on one client. If one client or one recruitment agency can't fill it, they have to be able to drop them in a second and go to someone else, because that position has to be filled. They don't have that luxury to not getting that position filled. So it to get those people out of the market, it really is up to the clients as well to start making better choices in choosing agencies. Because the thing is, if these agencies can only last if people are working with them. So it starts, in my opinion, it starts with the companies first. Do your due diligence in hiring agencies. And due diligence, you have to be able, agencies are have to be able to show you statistics and records and references on how they do things, how they've done it in the past, and why they have been successful, and what is their success ratio, their fill-in ratio on these types of vacancies or this specific companies. But if you're trusting someone very quickly on a personal level, just because I had a 5-minute chat and I tell you, I got these great candidates I can send you, and by the way, I'm going to do it for free. If you let these people in, you say, okay, I'm that desperate because I really need those things. It's you're actually opening up for those people to start coming in, because they will think, hey, I want to get one or two candidates in, and then we already made our quarter, so it's fine, and we can still exist and we can still do business. So it has to start with clients as well. But moments like these, going into a recession, are usually the best times for companies like me, because we'll be able to filter out the bad stuff, because they won't be able to get in anymore, because you really need now, you need that, you have been building rapport, and people are going to be more selective in
Yeah,
choosing which agency they want to work with. So it's
yeah.
these types of times that could be good for people, to push some agencies out, of course, that don't do their job very well, but they will remain on the market because of the
Mm.
specifics of a no cure no pay market, which is something that the companies specifically choose, which I don't always agree with.
Yeah.
So,
But I'm
so
going to add
yeah.
something. I'm add something to that, Alexander, and it's a lesson that I learned recently, and it's not criticism to nobody. It's just something that I learned. So I have been, working with HR and recruiters, so internal recruiters, external recruiters, like for I don't know 20, 25 years, and it was recently because I had to attract two persons, and that I really learned that, and I wasn't aware of that. is that in recruitment, also there, I don't believe anymore in the general recruitment. I really believe in specialized recruitment. It's not because you're great at attracting technical people that you're great at spotting sales talent. It's also a science or an art there. It's really a specialization because and that's for me. Again, it's
That's
not.
where you make
It's
the difference, because there are very good internal recruiters, and the best way to go forward in recruitment is, if you're a growth company, Saas or whatever company, is to use a combination, to use your internal recruiters for your business crucial vacancies that are always there. You have to have a pool of candidates in that specific thing all the time. Say, for instance, you're an AI company, you need data engineers all the time. Then you hire 2 recruiters that are specifically targeting these types of candidates all the time. And if there are other vacancies that are, I don't know, back office, sales, or finance, you use 2 or 3 specialized agencies, you hold them close to you, you pick 1 or 2 that you know, these are the ones that know our needs, that can deliver on time and really know who we are and are good ambassadors for. That combination is the golden combination. It's not, I always hear discussion internal versus external. It's a combination of both that you need. We can do stuff that internal recruiters don't, that are not good at, but internal recruiters, they're only ambassador for one company, so they won't be able to have lots of proactive conversations with people, and then they won't be able to understand one market very specifically. But external agencies do have that. And also, what's a good thing is that an external agency also has another point of view on your company. Because I see certain companies that have been there, if there's lots of management and hiring managers that have been more than 20 years, they don't know what's going on in the market. They only see themselves, they only see your company, and they're kind of like in an ivory tower above. And sometimes it's good that there's someone externally that is challenging them on what's actually happening in their company, or what are people thinking about your company, or what you actually need, because we know what the market wants. You don't know what the market wants, you know what you want. So that's a pretty good, I think, and that's one of the main advantages, having an external agency look at you.
Yeah, I fully agree, because my point of view used to be, okay, there is just one hiring person. Okay, we need to add capacity, like at Sentia, it is like that. So we need to hire capacity, and or he or she didn't find the right person. So it becomes like a B plan, the external recruiter. And then it shifted from immediately the hybrid model. And the situation I'm in right now, because I think we have 4 recruiters or something like that. So yeah, Peter, we're going to do it internal. But the thing that I really learned, it's really like you said. I mean, you have to go for your core. If it's like technical people, your core people, do it yourself. But like salespeople, it's because I'm very picky about sales. I really know exactly what I want. But it's having that conversation now with you, with everybody can in here, is now like, okay, Alexander really understands how it works. It's not going to be like a box, how do you call that? A box mover in terms of CVs, in terms of sales,
never.
but because I really want that depth that you're now talking about. I want to feel, no, okay, he knows what he's talking about, and that's
the only way you can do it is to be in contact with him every day, and to have a proactive network, almost a community type of network, which I think we're getting close to, in having people are enjoying the fact that we are industry experts, that we know what their not only what their role is about, but about what it takes to become in your career, and what steps do you really need to take. And we're here for the candidates to be there, each step of the way, hopefully. So
not just this is a vacancy we have to fill out, and goodbye, see you never again. We're going to follow up during your complete life cycle of your career.
It's in our slogan. We match ambitious sales professional with ambitious tech companies. So we start with an ambition, and we match with another ambition. So it's not just about filling in jobs. It's really about knowing that company's ambitions, where you work with, the CEO wants to reach some place, and you know that the sales professional also wants to reach something. And if you can match these two together, then you have a match that's, I would say, a little bit more close-knit match than just matching a vacancy with a person.
It sounds like the Millionaire Matchmaker, but then for salespeople.
Yeah.
Alexander, I thank you for your passion, your time. It was really great and fun having you. And thank you. And I wish you all the best and lots of success with Headlight.
Okay, thanks, Peter. It was great being here and talking to you. So always welcome to give me a call.
Hey, it's Peter here. Thanks a lot for listening to What's on Your Mind. Looking forward to your opinions and comments. And don't forget to subscribe on psgrow.com and leave your email address to stay tuned for future episodes. Bye!